Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 9 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. We have the Bears and the Steelers playing Monday night to close out, Week 9. This is not going to be a great game. This is a or is expected to be a really low scoring game. Right now, this game has a 39 total, which might be the lowest total we've seen on a primetime game this year. So I don't think we're really going to expect a ton of points scored here. I don't think we should be expecting a shootout or anything. But we have a showdown slate to play. We have a ton of money up top. DraftKings running another millionaire maker for this Monday Night Football game. So as always, guys, we're going to talk through this showdown slate. We're going to break down, the player pool, go from top to bottom, really just hit on all the playable options, all the guys I do have interest in. And then, towards the end of the video, we'll quickly kind of talk through roster construction, how you should be building out your lineups, who I'm kind of liking to build around, captain-wise, who I'm trying to play a captain on the slate. I've already kind of glanced over the slate already, and I will say that, the value, there's just no value on this slate. The pricing is very tight. DraftKings, did a good job making everyone expensive. It's really, the value on this slate is just not good. You're going to be, at least the guys down, cheap, you're going to be just kind of scratching your head rostering these guys. This is definitely a slate where the kickers look like good values. This is a slate where I think the defenses are pretty good values too. But we'll talk through it all. Before we do get started with the breakdown though, guys, please do hit the like button. As always, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I appreciate the likes. Hit that subscribe button as well if you are new here. And check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. Huge shout out to Prize Picks for, continuing to sponsor my videos. If you want to check out Prize Picks, you want to see what they have to offer. They are more of a player prop based site. They have, basically like player props, so passing yard projections, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions, touchdowns, completions. You can basically bet on anything on Prize Picks. You very simply just pick the over or the under on the projections that they have listed, for all their players. You can see everything they have to offer for this Monday night game. I'm making this video Sunday afternoon, so obviously they have stuff up for Sunday Night Football right now. But they also have fantasy point projections too, so you can take a look at their fantasy point projections. If you're someone that has access to projections yourself, you can kind of compare them to the projections that you use, see if there's any big differences, see where you can maybe go over or under. But yeah, guys, if you haven't checked out Prize Picks yet, you would like to check them out, be sure to use promo code NOAH when you sign up for Prize Picks. They will give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So basically, they will double your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with promo code NOAH. So make sure to check them out, guys, see what they have to offer, and you can make some picks for yourself for this Monday night game. But let's go ahead and start off at the top of the player pool, and we're just going to work our way down. So at the top, Najee Harris, most expensive option on the slate, $12,400 in the flex if you want to play Najee Harris at captain. Very expensive, $18,600, but hard to argue against it in my opinion. I mean, Najee Harris, especially after week one, after week one, I think people were kind of hesitant about Najee Harris. They were a little suspicious. Is he actually going to be a really good running back this year? Is he going to be, the guy that we all expect him to be? And really, ever since week one, he's just been a complete stud. He's been getting massive usage. He's got at least 20 DraftKings points in 4 straight games, at least 19 DraftKings points in every game except one this season. Even in tough matchups, he's still been able to produce, just getting so much opportunity, getting 20 plus carries, getting a ton of pass game usage. Even in games where they're trailing, this isn't a game where you expect the Steelers to be trailing, but even in games where they are trailing, they're still, leaving Najee Harris on the field. He's catching a ton of passes. I mean, that one week 3 against Cincinnati, he literally got 14 receptions, 19 targets. The dude just gets a ton of opportunity. The Bears this year have actually been pretty bad against the run. So far, against opposing running backs, they are allowing the 4th most rushing yards to opposing running backs. The Bears are. So I think this is a pretty good spot for Najee Harris. I think he's one of the highest upside and floor options as well in the slate. He's definitely a top play for me. Deontay Johnson continues to be a target monster. Even with Big Ben kind of struggling this year, Deontay Johnson's still getting a ton of opportunity, double-digit targets in every single game except one. And I'm pretty sure the one game he did get double-digit targets on, I think this game he got injured after he caught a long touchdown. So he's just been getting a ton of opportunity as well. Very safe play. I do prefer Najee Harris just straight up, but I think Deontay Johnson probably comes in with lower ownership than Najee Harris. I do expect both guys to be pretty popular, but Deontay is definitely a top pay-up option for sure. The targets are just going to continue to be there for him, while Juju Smith-Schuster is out, and I think Juju's going to be out for the year. So Deontay is a really safe play. I prefer Najee straight up though, but definitely have interest in Deontay. Now Big Ben and really both quarterbacks in this game, you're not going to feel great rostering either quarterback here. I normally side on rostering the quarterbacks on these showdown slates because quarterbacks always give you a high floor. Rarely do you see the quarterbacks not be in the winning lineups. But man, both of these quarterbacks have just been so bad for fantasy this year. Like Big Ben doesn't have a game over 20 DraftKings points this season. I mean, he's giving you a double-digit point floor. But if we're gonna pay this price tag for Ben, we obviously want somewhat of a ceiling, and he just shown no ceiling this year. And then Justin Fields actually had a good game last week. Before last week, though, Justin Fields was just so bad. I mean, he was struggling so much, but he was able to do it or get there on the ground last week. And Justin Fields does offer that, kind of rushing upside, that dual threat ability. Obviously, Big Ben, no rushing upside at all. Between the two quarterbacks, I think I would take Justin Fields. I don't think the quarterbacks are must here. Normally, I still think the quarterbacks, when the projections come out for this game, I still think the two quarterbacks are going to project really highly, just because quarterbacks are always going to project highly. But these QBs have just not been great this year. They really haven't shown any fantasy upside. I do like the rushing ability, though, of Justin Fields. I think game script is going to be in his favor, too. Like, I think the Bears are going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw here. Both quarterbacks are obviously in play. I don't feel great about either one, but I think Justin Fields, if I had to pick one of the two QBs, he would probably be the guy I would side with. Chase Claypool, though, at 9K, a lot of talent, obviously, doesn't offer you that same target floor that Deontay Johnson does, but Chase Claypool has a lot of big play upside, super talented receiver. I prefer Deontay Johnson just straight up, but Chase is definitely in play if you want to go there. I think he's like a riskier pay-up option. He definitely has somewhat of a low floor, but still a lot of upside that you could consider paying up for him. Now, David Montgomery, we're going to have to keep an eye on his status. So they actually said that there is a good chance that he's going to return from injured reserve and play Monday night. If David Montgomery is able to play, I don't know what kind of workload we can expect. He's coming back from a knee injury. Knee injuries are never, anytime a guy's coming back from a leg injury, knee, ankle, whatever it may be, usually they're going to be limited. I don't think David Montgomery is just going to come back and get 25 touches. So even if he plays Monday night, I think it's going to be tough to roster him at 8,400. And then if he does play, that's going to take away from Khalil Herbert. And Khalil Herbert's also expensive. He's over 8K. We might see like a 50-50 split between Montgomery and Herbert. And with how they're both priced, I just don't know, man. Like, it's going to be really tough to go to the running backs from Chicago. Now, if David Montgomery does not wind up playing, then I would like Khalil Herbert quite a bit, because Khalil Herbert's kind of been the Bears' feature back these last few weeks. Even with Damian Williams back from COVID, like, Khalil Herbert's still been the guy they've been giving all the touches to. The matchup against Pittsburgh's not ideal, but he would get a ton of opportunity if David Montgomery was out. But if David Montgomery plays, I might just be avoiding the Bears' backfield as a whole, unless we can get confirmation that David Montgomery is going to get close to a full workload. If David Montgomery can get close to a full workload, then he would actually be a pretty good play at 8,400, because when David Montgomery is healthy, he's been a workhorse running back this season. So we're just going to have to wait and see there when it comes to the Bears running backs. But then we got some of these Bears receivers. So you got like Allen Robinson, 7,200, Darnell Mooney, 6,400. Allen Robinson probably been like one of the biggest disappointments this year. I know a lot of people, including myself, had a lot of high hopes for Allen Robinson. With Justin Fields potentially being the starting quarterback for the Bears this year, going into the season, I thought, this is finally going to be the year that Allen Robinson breaks out, has a big year, and he's just been so bad. And I don't know if it's really his fault. Maybe it's just the Bears' offense has not been good. He only has one game this year over double-digit DK points. He's only scored one touchdown on the season. The matchup against Pittsburgh is not good. Allen Robinson, I still think is a talented receiver, but I have no confidence in Allen Robinson at this point. He's still in play because it's a freaking showdown slate, and basically anyone that's going to play as much as Robinson is in play. But I don't have a ton of confidence in Robinson. Darnell Mooney, I think, is the Bears receiver I probably feel the best about. He's just been the most consistent, offers some big play upside as well. He seems to have a connection with Justin Fields. He's kind of been the guy that Justin Fields has targeted the most. Now we're going to have to keep an eye on his status too. He is currently questionable. I assume he will play. He got in some limited practices during the week. Just keep an eye on this. If Mooney plays, I think he's a pretty good option at 6,400. He's probably my favorite Bears receiver. If Mooney gets ruled out, then we might get some value on this slate. But for now, I'm expecting Mooney to play. Pat Freiermuth at 7K took over as the number one tight end last week for the Steelers with Eric Ebron out, and he had a pretty good game. He was targeted 7 times, had 4 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. He did play on a large majority of the snaps. Pat Freiermuth last week played on 78% of the snaps, so 75-80% of the snaps I think is what we should expect from him here. Eric Ebron's already been ruled out again. Pat Freiermuth is 7K, that's a pretty hefty price point. I think he's kind of like touchdown or bust. I don't know if Pat Freiermuth has a ton of I know he had 1 7-catch game this year, but he's not normally a guy you expect to get 6, 7, 8 catches. I think you'll probably see 5 or 6 targets. he feels like kind of touchdown or bust, but really all the guys priced around him are kind of the same thing. I mean, it's not like I feel great about Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney has some upside, but he definitely has a low floor too. All these guys kind of feel just like, okay options. Mooney's my favorite. I would probably play A-Rob over Pat Freiermuth too. 7K just is expensive for a tight end that feels like touchdown or bust to me. So I don't know if I'm going to have a ton of exposure to him, but he's at least playable because he's going to be on the field a ton. If he does catch a touchdown, obviously, he'll have a good game for his salary, but you're probably going to need a touchdown for him to pay off 7K. But then starting to take a look at some of the value on this slate. So Cole Kmet, 5,800, kind of expensive for how, just mediocre he's been this season, but he is getting a ton of opportunity. Last 2 weeks, Cole Kmet's played on 89 and 90% of the snaps, so he has basically been like an every down tight end for the Bears this year. He's probably going to get like 5 or 6 targets. Between him or Pat Freiermuth, I think I would just rather play Cole Kmet. Both guys are probably going to see similar opportunity. Both guys are going to be on the field the same amount for the most part. Quarterback play, offense, I think the Steelers have a little bit of a better offense. I think the Steelers are going to be able to move the ball down the field a little bit easier than the Bears will. But, for the price savings, I would probably take, Cole Kmet over Pat Freiermuth if I had to roster a tight end in this game. Cole Kmet, he's probably touchdown or bust as well. I mean, I don't think he's gotten like over 50 yards all season. Yeah, Cole Kmet's yet to get over 50 yards this season. He's yet to score double-digit DK points in any game. If he catches a touchdown, though, then you're in pretty good shape. You're going to need a touchdown from him, though, to really pay off that price. James Washington, he's kind of like the wide receiver 3, with Juju out, but he just doesn't really get targeted much. I mean, last week, James Washington, I want to see how many snaps he played. I don't think he really played that much. He played on 46% of the snaps. I mean, he's another kind of touchdown or bust play. He probably gets a few targets, but you're going to either need like a deep ball or a touchdown for him to really be viable. Don't really like James Washington that much. The defenses, I think, are decent values. You got the Steelers defense at 5K. You got the Bears defense at 2,600. I mean, we've seen both these quarterbacks can turn the ball over. The Bears offensive line has not been able to protect Justin Fields that well this season. So the Steelers defense at 5K, the Steelers, I think, have a lot of upside. Their defense does. I tend to hate playing defenses just because defenses tend to be over-owned on showdown slates. But, man, the value is just so bad tonight that I think, 5K for the Steelers defense in a good spot against a turnover-prone quarterback. I'm totally fine rostering the Steelers defense. I'm totally fine going to either kicker. The kickers look like pretty solid values. Normally I don't like playing both kickers, but God, again, the value's just not that great that I think both kickers actually, you could play both kickers in the same lineup on this slate, to be honest with you. Marquise Goodwin, he's just like a big player bust kind of guy, touchdown or bust. He probably gets 2 or 3 targets. He's like the wide receiver 3 for the Bears. I will say that if Darnell Mooney, does not wind up playing, then Marquise Goodwin would become a lot better option. I would actually have a lot of interest in Marquise Goodwin, but for now I'm expecting Mooney to play, which basically makes Marquise Goodwin the wide receiver 3. Last week he played on 43% of the snaps. He's going to play around 40 to 50% of the snaps. He's probably going to see 2, 3, maybe 4 targets. You got to hope for a deep ball. You got to hope for a touchdown. No confidence in Marquise Goodwin, but he's at least playable because he does offer some big play upside, I guess. Anthony Miller, he signed with the Steelers a month ago to their practice squad, but he's yet to play, so I'm not expecting Anthony Miller to be active. He's yet to play with the Steelers this season. Jesse James, God, I don't want to play Jesse James. He's probably he's another touchdown or bust play. I mean, Jesse James probably gets maybe 1 or 2 targets. If he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's going to put up probably 2 DraftKings points, if not 0. So touchdown or bust. I don't really like Jesse James that much, to be honest with you. And then Ray McCloud, I mean, God, maybe he gets 1 to 2 targets. Last week, Ray McCloud played on 15% of the snaps. I mean, I don't really have any interest in Ray McCloud, but I guess he's playable. There's just no value, man. Zach Gentry, Benny Snell, I'm not going to play these guys. So the value is so tough tonight. I think the kickers look like good values. I think the defenses actually look like solid values. If I was going to target a receiver, it would probably be Marquise Goodwin, I guess, or Cole Kmet. We are going to need to keep an eye on the status of Darnell Mooney. If Darnell Mooney gets ruled out, that will actually give us some value. Then I think, Marquise Goodwin would become a pretty solid value play. We could look to I don't even know who would step in for the Bears at that point. Maybe Damiere Byrd could be a solid value if Marquise Goodwin were to be out. But there's really, just this slate in general is gross. There's not much value. I think this is definitely a slate where you're going to be probably playing the kickers. The defenses are going to project as good values. There's really no receivers I love or no pass catchers down here that offer much upside at all. All these guys Cole Kmet, James Washington, Marquise Goodwin, like all these guys are touchdown or bust basically, or they need to pull off a big play. So that kind of does it for the player pool, guys. I think we really talked about like all the playable options. Now talking through roster construction for this slate, in terms of captain, where I'm going to be going at captain, I think Najee Harris probably projects as like he's going to project as the highest projected player overall. I think he's going to project higher than the quarterbacks, just points wise. Najee Harris definitely a good captain option. I think he will be very high owned at captain, but he offers a ton of upside. I think he's probably the best captain play overall. But like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, the Steelers receivers, I think if you do somehow get a 250-yard, 3-touchdown game from Big Ben, it is possible that you do get maybe 100 yards and a touchdown from Deontay or Chase Claypool. Obviously, those guys are captain viable. In the mid-range, there's not much I like here for captain. If David Montgomery doesn't play and then we get like Khalil Herbert as the number one running back, I think Khalil Herbert would be a viable captain play, but we need that Montgomery news. Allen Robinson, I guess he's captain viable, but he's just like shown no upside. Darnell Mooney, I probably would like as just kind of a mid-range, lower-owned captain if he's able to play. There's really no guys I like for cheap at captain, though. I think a lot of my captain exposure is going to be going to Najee Harris, Deontay, Chase Claypool. The quarterbacks, I don't think I'd be playing at captain on this slate. You can maybe play Justin Fields at captain, because if Justin Fields, is able to do it with his legs like he did last week, he has the upside to be a winning captain. But he really hasn't shown any upside through the air this year. But Najee straight up, I think, is my favorite captain on this slate. And then after Najee, I normally want to try and play one of the two quarterbacks. I think if I had to pick one, I guess I'd go with Justin Fields. Especially if we're playing Najee at captain and we're assuming Najee has a big game. Maybe that means that Big Ben, doesn't have a big game, doesn't score any touchdowns, and that Najee's getting all the touchdowns. So probably wouldn't want to play Big Ben in our Najee captain lineups. So we'll go Justin Fields. And after that, we got to get some cheap plays. So I think we can probably look to like one of the kickers. Chris Boswell was a full participant in practice Friday, so I guess he'll be playing. So I guess he's the kicker we could roster from Pittsburgh. Or we could play the Bears kicker too. I guess we'll just go with the Pittsburgh kicker for now, assuming Boswell's in there. Then after that, we got to find some more value. So I guess we can either play, another kicker. We can play the Bears kicker, or we can maybe play one of the defenses. Like I don't think it'd be that bad of an idea to play the Steelers defense in this lineup, especially if we have Najee at captain. Like if the Steelers get out to a big lead, and let's say Najee scores like 2 rushing touchdowns in the first quarter, and the Steelers are up 14-0. Obviously, that's going to be great for the Steelers defense, because then Justin Fields is, having to throw a lot, which is opportunity for the Steelers defense to get pick sixes, to get sacks, scooping scores. So Najee captain with Steelers defense, there's probably actually some, good positive correlation there. But after we plug in the Steelers defense, then we can maybe get like one of these mid-range options and then one of these cheaper guys. I guess we could play like, so let's see, if we play the Bears kicker, that leaves us enough to play like David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert. I guess we could go there. Tough to really go to one of those guys right now until we get an update on David Montgomery. Let's see if we can go any cheaper though. God, under the Bears kicker, they're like, I don't want to play Jesse James. I don't think I want to play both defenses in the same lineup. That seems like probably unlikely to work. Maybe we go up to like Cole Kmet. That leaves us enough to play Darnell Mooney. So that actually might be a pretty decent lineup. So that's something you could do. Najee captain with the Steelers defense, with the Steelers kicker, and then Justin Fields and 2 of his pass catchers. I think the Steelers defense could definitely be in the winning lineup, and Justin Fields also be in the winning lineup, because really for a defense to be in the winning lineup, they need like a touchdown, a pick six. Justin Fields could throw a pick six in this game and still throw for 2 or 3 touchdowns. So honestly, I don't mind playing the Steelers defense with Justin Fields, especially on this slate where value is just so thin. So that's kind of a build I like for this game, guys. But as you can see, man, value is really tough. It's a really tough slate in general. The pricing is very, very tight. It's really hard to build lineups you're going to feel great about. But in a game like this with a 39 total, I don't think we should expect a ton of points scored anyway. So I don't know if there's going to be any cheap guys that really like break the slate, unless you get like 2 touchdowns from like Jesse James or something, or Cole Kmet, or one of these guys that you don't really expect to do anything. If they get lucky, score 2 touchdowns, that could happen. But for the most part, it's a pretty gross slate. I don't think I'd be playing too heavy on this Showdown slate. I think I'll be getting most of my action on Prize Picks. That's kind of where I've been getting all my action in for these primetime games. I usually bet more of my money on Prize Picks than I do on these Showdown slates. I think Showdown's just kind of it's for fun. It's a lot of variance, a lot of randomness. But on Prize Picks, you can take a look at their projections. Again, guys, you can see what Prize Picks has to offer if you want to check them out. There's a sponsor of this video. sign up for Prize Picks, use promo code Noah, take a look at their projections. If you have any that you see you like, you obviously can go over or under the projections they have listed for each player. You can see everything they have for this Monday night game. But that's it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and I wish you guys the best of luck tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.